Hey guys, Statue here. I've got an update for the IADS script that I want to show you here today. This update is version 2 of the script. It's a complete overhaul of it, almost completely rewritten from the bottom to the top. Um, the biggest features that you will see in this new version is it's easier to set up. It's really simple as a mission designer to set the system up. The most difficult part is probably setting the options in the script itself. But we'll go over that and should be fairly straightforward for you. As well, we've got a new non-engagement zone where if there's any aircraft inside that zone, they will be ignored for the dispatcher and SAM site activation. And lastly, and one of the biggest uh, additions to this script is the air-to-air dispatcher. So what this is, and we've got this whole area over here to explain it with little details in this example mission, is automatically dispatches AI aircraft to intercept enemy aircraft that the integrated air defense system picks up. So we'll take a look at all of this right away here. But first up, let's take a look at our script settings. So as you can see here, we've got somewhat similar to the last script in that all the settings are at the top. So everything between user settings and end of user settings is stuff that I would recommend you change to your needs. So we've got debug mode. This is currently saved, set to true. That way, once you put the script in your mission, you can see what it's doing and make sure everything is working properly. Once you are ready to push this out to your mission and run the mission, be sure to turn this to false. Otherwise, people are going to be getting messages on their screens about SAM sites turning on and aircraft being launched and stuff like that. You don't want to be giving away that information to them. The other settings we have, they're split into two subcategories. We have SAM and EWR settings and air-to-air settings. So under the SAM settings, we got prefixes. So this is just how the script finds the applicable units inside the mission. And then we have cluster counts. So it's a little different, differently handled this time. You can have multiple EWRs per cluster, but it's the same in that the SAM systems all work off of their assigned cluster. So this must be at least one, but if you have multiple clusters, just increase this value. You can have as many clusters as you want. There's no limit. If you want 10 EWR cluster or 10 different clusters of SAM systems, it's totally up to you to do that. The coalition, that's for the enemy, the coalition of the IADS. So if you're got blue helicopters, then you want to have a red coalition here. This live percent, that's just how far the helicopter must be within the engagement range of the SAM site and percentage. That way they don't turn on until it's almost too late for that helicopter to escape. 90% is good for helicopters. You might want 80% for fast jets. Keep in mind that this does not limit how far the missiles will go. This only limits to where the SAM sites will go live. So if there's a helicopter within 90% distance and the SAM site turns on and the helicopter turns away to escape, that missile is still going to chase it all the way to 100% of that engagement radius. The reaction time, this is for when the EWR gets lost. This is how long it takes for the SAM sites to realize that they are no longer connected to a network and that they need to go into autonomous mode, which basically is just they turn themselves on. This is a random chance in seconds, so this is between 2 minutes and 10 minutes is how long it may take for a SAM site to turn on once it realizes the EWR is gone. No engage prefixes is for your non-engagement zones. You can have as many zones as you want as long as they have this prefix in their name somewhere. And the live timeout is after a SAM site turns on, it runs a timeout, and every time it gets updated with a radar hit from the EWR, it resets the timeout. But once that radar contact is lost, the SAM site will remain live for this many seconds, and then it'll go dark once it's no longer getting updates on the enemy. All right, so that's for the SAM settings. Let's take a look at the air-to-air settings. So once again, we've got prefixes to identify your air-to-air units. So we've got red int. The intercept prefix is for interceptors. So we've got red int air. Cap prefix for our combat air patrol. Red cap air. And then we've got a few different ways to designate zones for the cap units or the air-to-air units. So we've got going to be using aircraft with waypoints to do that, and you're going to give those aircraft these prefixes. So for the cap zone, this is where the cap aircraft will travel around in. The border zone, which is the area where they're allowed to be redirected to a target. The intercept zone, which is where if a target is detected, the interceptors will launch to. And then now we've got some limits for the aircraft that can be launched. So max cap, this is how many aircraft or cap groups are allowed to be in the air at a time. I've got this set to 2. And same with the interceptors, how many interceptors will get launched when they detect or when the EWR picks up a contact. It'll launch 2 groups of interceptors to engage that contact. We've also got a respawn timer. So for the cap groups, because they always respawn whenever they're below the threshold that you set in the max cap here. So this runs on a timer. Right now I've got it set to 5 minutes, which is 300, but you can increase this value as you see fit. If you maybe want the cap aircraft to take a little longer to get back in the air after they've landed or been shot down. Lastly, we've got some settings for their speed. So when the cap aircraft are just patrolling around, you set their speed in knots, so 350 knots at an altitude of 24,000 feet. And then we have intercept speed. So this applies to both the interceptors and the cap aircraft. When they get a radar contact, or the EWR picks up a radar contact and passes it over to the aircraft, they're going to fly at a speed of 2,000 knots, or at least as fast as they can go to get up to 2,000 knots. And they're going to reduce their altitude to 1,600 to intercept that target. All right, so we talk about clusters. Kind of had this in the last kind of script, but it's still the same here. So we've got multiple clusters. Each cluster is linked, or where all the sites and EWRs are linked together. So in cluster 1, we've got 2 EWRs and about 4 SAM sites, plus a SHORAD that's connected to it. And then in cluster 2, we've got 1 EWR with 6 SAM sites and a SHORAD. So you can set these up any way you like. You can have as many SAM sites as you want. You can have as many EWRs as you want. Just pay attention to these prefixes. So when we looked at the script here, you see that our EWR prefix is EWR and our SAM prefix is SAM. So let's take a look at our mission editor here. So under the EWR, I've got the prefix EWR, and then I have the cluster number. So the cluster number is 1. Anything, I can type anything I want after this. I could say pool man 1, I don't know. Whatever you want. As long as the first prefix followed by the cluster number is set up this way. So I've got EWR 1-2. You can see the other one here is EWR 1-1. The same with the SAM sites. So SAM for the prefix, followed by 1 for the cluster, and then just whatever I want afterwards to identify them. That's it. You don't have to put their name in. You don't have to put their type in. You just have to assign them. The script will automatically detect what kind of battery it is based on the launchers inside. So this is an SA3. We've got our flat phase search radar and our low blow track radar. The script looks for the launchers themselves. So whatever launcher has the highest amount of range, if for whatever reason you have a mixture of launchers in here, is what it's going to use to determine the range of that SAM site. So since we've got the S125 launchers for the SA3, the script will detect this as an SA3. For here, we've got an SA6 with its search and track radar, and then the gainful telemetry, the Cub. telemetry launchers on the side here, so it's going to find those launchers and declare that as an SA6. This also works for the SHORAD SAM systems, so we've got an SA8 here. Keep in mind that you can't combine your SHORAD with your EWR, so these are two separate groups. I've got EWR 1-1 here, and I've got SAM 1-4 for the SHORAD. Make sure that they're separate, otherwise it's not going to work properly. So I've got the SA8 here. It's going to detect that it's an SA8, and they will only turn on once the aircraft is inside that 90% radius. If you look at cluster 2, it looks pretty much the same here. You've got EWR, but instead of 1, it's now 2. And then same thing for the SHORAD, SAM 2-2, or the SAM clusters, 2-1, 2-4, 2-6 for this SA11. There is, I don't think I have the group here, but if you do have an SA10, there's two different types of launchers. It doesn't matter which one you use. Either type of launcher will give it the SA10 properties. So don't worry about which launcher you use for the SA10. It will automatically detect it. If you have a modded SAM system or some sort of radar system that's not covered, maybe it's a Blue 4 radar system. I haven't added those to this list yet. Just let me know. I can add it in there. You can try to add it in yourself, but you have to get the DCS descriptor unit name, which can take a little bit of scripting or digging around in the documents to find. So if you do have a SAM system that is not covered by this script, just let me know. I can throw it in there for you, and you'll be good to go on that as well. All right, so let's take a look at our air-to-air zones now. This is a little bit of a little bit busier in the text, so let's get rid of our drawings here, just make it a little easier to see. All right, so we've got aircraft in the air here. These are late activated. Okay, so these aircraft, their purpose is simply to draw a complex polygon zone, right? So they're late activated. They're not going to be used. It doesn't really matter what you use. You can use a K-50, Mi-24. Really doesn't matter, just as long as it's some sort of aircraft with waypoints. And you just draw their waypoints out, and the inside of this area, this whole inside area, is the zone that you've drawn out. So you can create rather complex zones if you wanted to, if you wanted to make it go all the way around this mountain here. You just add more waypoints, and you can make it do that for you. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Just going to leave it as is. We've got 3 different types of areas here. Now, you don't need all 3, but you definitely always need a border zone. So our first area is the red border. That's this very large zone here. And what that does is if there's an enemy aircraft outside of the border zone and it's picked up by the EWR, the cap and interceptors are not going to be launched to engage that target. The cap zone here in the middle, you can see it's quite a bit of a ways away from the border. That's just because the aircraft, they're able to detect with their own radar enemy aircraft up to 100 kilometers away. It's pretty wild how far they can detect things. I had a helicopter down in this area here, so way outside the cap area, and one of the aircraft up here was able to pick it up with its own search radar and flew out to engage it. So just keep that in mind that the cap aircraft, they will try to engage a target on their own if they see it without the help of the EWR. And then lastly, we've got the interceptor zone. So if you do want to use interceptors, you create your interceptor zone, and that way any enemy aircraft detected in this area here will be intercepted by our interceptors. So how do we set up our aircraft? This is quite simple here. We go back to our script if we want to take a look at it, and we'll look at our interceptor prefix. So we've got red int air and red cap air for our aircraft presets. So let's take a look at our cap aircraft first. So you see we've got red cap air and then an identifier after it. It doesn't matter what you type after, as long as it says red cap air, it will find that unit. You don't actually have to put it on the ground. Like these aircraft, they're just, I've got them set to turning point, just how they spawn in when you put them down in the mission editor. You just throw it near whatever airbase you want. You don't have to worry about any advanced waypoint actions. They don't care. We don't even need that on there. They don't care about the advanced waypoint actions because the script handles all that for you. So you simply just take your aircraft, put it down, set up your payload the way you want it to be. So here we've got patrol medium range with our onboard missiles and external fuel tank. Set up your livery. I'm going to use Syria 1, and they're good to go. So we've got that, and we've also got a MiG-29A here, and it's loaded up with missiles and a fuel tank. Same goes for the interceptors. Whatever airport you want to be, the interceptor airport, put them nearby it. It doesn't have to be on top of it. It can be this far away, but because Thadla is the closest airport to that aircraft, that's the one it's going to pick. Works the same way with the prefixes as well. You've got Redent Air -1 as the identifier, and Redent Air 2, so that just identifies that that's an interceptor aircraft. That's all there is to it. It's pretty simple to set up. Oh, sorry, one last thing here. The non-engagement zone. We've used our prefix no SAM engage. I can even call it no SAM engage 1 and create multiples of them if I wanted to. And any friendly or enemy helicopter detected in these zones will not be engaged by either the cap aircraft or the SAM systems here. Alright, so let's take a look at this in the sim, and we'll take a look at what it looks like from the inside of a helicopter with RWR capabilities, and we'll take a look at the air-to-air interceptors as well. Okay, so at the start of the mission, you're going to see that the SAM sites are actually active still. They're not asleep yet. Take a look at this SA-11. It's probably the best example here. You see that it's setting up its systems right now. It's in the red state, and everything is deploying. This takes quite a while, so the script handles this automatically based on the type of SAM site it is. You see it set up and does a little rotation, and now it's offline. It's no longer active. And the same thing for our SA-15s here. They're live, but not running. Our SA-6 has deployed its search and track radar, but it's not running. And same thing with our SA-8s. They're up. The radars are deployed, but they're not actively searching right now. Let's take a look at what this looks like in the helicopter. We're going to AH-64D. We're just outside of the range of the Cluster 2 EWR that's protected by SA-15 SHORAD systems.
Radar. Right. 11 o'clock. Searching.
So we've got a few radars that are searching in the area right now. If I just pause this, take a look at our TSD. So you've got a search radar and some sort of track radar, and a couple search radars off at our 9 o'clock as well. Not really sure what they are at this time, but just keep an eye on them for now. You see in that little doghouse up ahead, that's where our EWR site is. So we're gonna fly towards that and see if it'll pick us up.
SA-2, 11 o'clock. Searching.
Alright, so now I've got the SA-2 search radar. Since the SA-2 came online, I'm inside the area. It's searching for me right now. It might pick me up and start tracking. We'll find out shortly. I think that the SA-15 is going to be our bigger threat in this case.
SA-2, 11 o'clock. Tracking.
Alright, so the SA-2 is tracking me. I'm going to go down, try to break that contact. just getting inside the SA-15's engagement range now, so that should be coming online shortly as well.
SA-15, 12 o'clock, searching.
Alright, so the SA-15's online.
12 o'clock,
It's tracking me.
SA-15, 1 o'clock,
And
forward
it's
right.
engaged me. Now I gotta try to evade this missile. Alright, so that's kind of how the IADS system works. You're just kind of flying along, getting a couple search radars here and
4
there.
o'clock, tracking.
And then all of a sudden, you're going to have a SAM site pop up, and it's going to start tracking you and engaging missiles, and you're going to be surprised by it, likely, because if you weren't aware that it's there, then why didn't you pick up the SAM site before you got into its engagement range? And that's just the nature of the IADS, and it's kind of evil that way. Alright, so let's take a look at our non-engagement zones here. We're going to just speed up time here to about 20 times speed, just to really get an idea of what's going on here. Turn on my engagement zone. So if I spawn a blue helicopter, you'll see that the SAM sites nearby have gone live. They've picked it up, and the SA-2 just launched and took it down. Now if I put that helicopter in the non-engagement zone, actually let's move it even closer to the SAM sites, make sure they're really inside that engagement radius. So now that helicopter's inside the non-engagement zone, since it's in there, you'll see that the SAM sites that are assigned to that area are offline. If I take that helicopter and I tell them to leave the non-engagement zone, now you can see the SA-3 is online, the SA-2 is online, and you can see that track radar following the helicopter right now. Now the helicopter's kind of low, so it might not be engaged by it, but that SAM site is alive and tracking it and trying to get a target solution now that it's outside the engagement zone. So we're just going to leave it there. Let's move on over to our cap areas. So you can see we've got our interceptors or combat air patrol aircraft cruising around here doing their thing, cruising at the altitudes and speeds that I set them to in the into the settings. What these guys do is they just kind of bop around this this cap zone randomly, just flying around, seeing if they can find any targets. So if I spawn a helicopter outside of that cap zone, but inside the border zone, you'll see that they're going to rather immediately get assigned that target. So here they go. They're chasing down the helicopter now. And he's destroyed. They're going to return back to the cap zone. And they might land at the airport simply because they've expended quite a bit of fuel to engage that target. Although they didn't go too far, so they might continue on their flight. This will work anywhere inside the border zone. So let's say I spawn the helicopter way down over here. And this also works for any EWR. So I do have an EWR here. It's part of cluster 3. That's simply just for making things easier to detect in this area. Looks like our cap aircraft are actually going to land right now. Just speed up time, watch them do their thing. So they're going to go to the parking area. And then they'll despawn automatically. Got a new respawn there. And a new respawn there. Let's bring it back to 20 times speed here. So they'll intercept a helicopter anywhere inside that border zone as long as they're picked up by any EWR from any cluster. So cluster one's EWR here, or cluster three's EWR over here might not be able to see it, but if cluster two's EWR, which is this big guy sitting on this hill here, if it picks that up the helicopter, it's going to send those interceptors to engage it. So if I put that helicopter there, you see that the cluster has picked them up. Our aircraft are now flying at as fast as they can to engage that target, and target destroyed. These guys are probably going to return to base now, which is a good time to show you the interceptor zone. It looks like we've actually lost one of the aircraft. Sometimes the AI are just silly that way. Alright, he's close enough. Let's take a look at the interceptor. So the interceptors launch from Thala. So we'll throw a helicopter nearby. Actually, let's put a jet in this time. We're gonna put an F-16 in here. So here we go. F-16. I'm prepared for this, flying around in the interceptor zone. So the EWR picked him up. Our interceptors are now getting prepared for launch. We've got two interceptor groups here. We've got MiG-21s starting up and a couple of MiG-29s starting up as well. Looks like that 129 here is also going to engage. We're going to just stop him from doing that. Alright, so MiG-21s are off first, and they're off to intercept that target. Mission complete for the interceptors. They're going to RTB now. As long as these interceptors are alive, they won't engage. They won't spawn anymore. So if I spawn another aircraft here, you see these interceptors. They're already on the ground. It's not going to spawn anymore until these guys have despawned. But you'll see that our cap aircraft are now moving to intercept that target anyway. So it'll be taken care of. And there's our interceptors being respawned. This is probably a good way to keep aircraft out of an area they're not supposed to fly. You can send the interceptors on them, and those aircraft will have very little chance of getting out of there, especially if you have several groups of interceptors moving to engage it. Unless they're horrible AI like these guys are and can't seem to kill a slow-moving Mi-8. There we go. 29s took care of it. Alright, that's all I got to show you guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys could see some use out of this script, and I hope that the changes made it more simple to use and a lot easier to set up. And looking forward to seeing any missions in the future using this as well.